Thank you all for attending. Sorry that we're starting a little bit late today. I was having a slow connection on my side. Hopefully, the recording is reflected more in real time. So, my name is Noah, and thank you for joining us for our Shortcuts Tuesday classroom session. Today, the focus is going to be the online booking basics. So, most of you have salons or spas or barbershops. You may currently be used to the walk-in manager, not really using the appointment book. But of course, with the cases of COVID, with how your state or how your county is handling reopening, you probably have some new rules in place. So you need to know how to set up online booking. How do shortcuts know when to make appointments? Who's available for appointments? When is your business open? So we're going to look at that today. So as with our other presentations, we are going to record this session. So if you have to leave early or if you're watching this after the fact, you always have the chance to reach out to us. We are going to share the link with everybody later today. And of course, you can always ask us more questions on social media. So if you reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram, we will get back to you. And that includes questions regarding today's classroom session, previous classroom sessions, or just ideas for future sessions. So today, the focus on today, online booking. So again, if you already have online booking, this is going to be a refresher for you. If you're mostly using shortcuts just to take walk-in customers, but new rules in your county or in your city require you to have appointments only, we're going to learn how to configure that, how to make sure you're accepting appointments on your appointment book or making adjustments. Plus, how to add a BookMe link to Facebook. It's pretty easy. So let's actually get started. The first thing you want to do, if you're using Shortcuts Fusion, the Shortcuts point of sale, you want to go to Setup Services and actually tell Shortcuts which services can be booked on the web, online. So there's two places to do that. From the main service window, in the middle of your service list, there's a column that says Web, and you can just check and uncheck which services are available for online booking. If you go into the options for or the details for your services, there's an option on the bottom left corner. It's a checkbox that says can be booked via web. Both of these checkboxes do the same thing. So if you currently are not using online booking and you have had that option, this is how you enable that service to show up online. And Shortcuts Online Services synchronizes pretty quick. So in just a few moments, that service will now appear on your online booking page. So in Shortcuts, it's actually synchronizing from multiple places. Not only does your service menu synchronize online, so too does your capability list. So if you have a salon or if you have a front desk and your receptionist knows which employees can do which services, who your estheticians are, and they've just memorized all of the staff members, they can of course book a person that's there in person. But if you're enabling online services and you don't want certain employees being booked because they don't have the license or they don't have the experience for a service, then you want to create a capability list for it. So you can tell Shortcuts, this is my team that does color. This is my team that does haircuts. Somebody jumps online and chooses a color service, then Shortcuts will only show them the list of the employees that can do color. So if you have a barber on your team and the barber is the only one that has the license to do straight razor services, then when somebody jumps on your online booking and chooses a barbering service, only those specific employees come up on the list. So those are capabilities. If you're not currently using capabilities, you absolutely want to have those set up. And in a moment, I'm going to show you how to create capabilities in Shortcuts. So once your service menu is synchronized, once your capability list is synchronized, this is where you're going to jump into the Shortcuts Online console and you're going to configure what are your options, what are your settings for online booking. So we're going to pause where we're at right now and we're actually going to go into Shortcuts to do some configuration. So I'll exit out of my PowerPoint and we'll jump into shortcuts. So 3 places in shortcuts are constantly synchronizing for online booking. On the right side, we're going to set up configuration. And once you're in configuration, the first place that you always want to make sure is set correctly to synchronize online is on the left side of the screen under the General tab. So we're on General, and we're going to go to Business. So in this case, this is an academy I was working with, and this is a test database. But on the right side where it says opening hours, so this is where we tell shortcuts, when is the salon or the spa or the barbershop open? This is how online booking knows your business is open, ready to accept appointments. So make sure you double check all of your details in your business hours here. That's the first place you check. The second place you check is under Setup on the right side of the screen, Services. So again, on the Services menu, if you're going to allow customers to book a service online, when you open up that category, in the middle column, there is a checklist for web. So if I start enabling these services, then customers can then book these services online. So this is the second place that you check, your service menu. Make sure you're only allowing customers to book services you're actually going to allow. The third thing that always synchronizes, and this sort of is hand in hand with services, that's capabilities. So we need to tell shortcuts which employees are allowed to perform which services. So this is my makeup team. These are the only employees that show up and are available for makeup. What about nail services? These are the employees that are allowed to do these nail services. And if you have a staff member that does not appear on this list, then they will not be bookable online for this service. So how do you actually create a category? So of course, I have nail, skincare, hair services, but let's say I want to do a very specific team. Right now, I have all of my hair services just under one category. Let's say I want to separate it into just color services, and this is what I would recommend. If you're doing multiple types of hair services, create a list of your styling services, create a list of your haircut services, create a list of your color services. And maybe every staff member is capable of doing all 3. Maybe only 1 or 2 can do all 3. So it's better to add names into a list of specific services than to create one master list of all services and knowing that a couple of your team members don't actually do that. So it's okay to break apart your service categories. So I'll create a new one, and this is again a capability list, and I'll say this is a color service. So at the bottom of the screen, I'm going to tell shortcuts what are the specific services I'm talking about. So I can choose the entire hair color category, or maybe I just have advanced color services that only some people can do. So I can pick and choose maybe just balayage, balancing, or lightener, things like that. In this case, I'm going to choose the entire hair color category and add it. Once I hit done, then Shortcuts is going to ask me to assign an employee to do these services. So I've created my color category. At the bottom of the screen, I'll choose which students or which employees are doing this. So I'll tag the names of my team members that are allowed to do color and then press add. So now Shortcuts knows if somebody jumps online to book a color service, these are the only team members that come up. So remember, capabilities are constantly synchronizing too. Review the ones that you have, set up new ones if you haven't been using this previously. The third thing that synchronizes from your system, or actually the fourth thing I should say, is under employees, your staff schedules. So try not to leave a day blank on this window. If a team member is not actually there, actually mark it under shift type as a day off. So in this way, there's absolutely no mistake by the system whether the business is open but an employee is not available, because it knows what their schedules are? Absolutely. If you've never used schedules in shortcuts, you might want to go back to our previous training sessions. I did create an actual classroom session on setting up a schedule, because if you leave the schedule completely off all of your staff members, then Shortcuts is going to assume the business is open on this day, therefore every employee that's on my screen is available to be booked online or booked in person. So to avoid that, go to everybody's schedule and put the days that they're actually working and the days that they're actually off. And then online booking will never make a mistake. Okay? So set your business hours, set your service menu, set your capabilities if you have certain employees that perform services, and set your staff schedules. So those things synchronize in a matter of moments so that you'll absolutely know for sure who is and who isn't available. The next thing you need to do is then jump into your Shortcuts Online console. So in the console itself, hopefully you're familiar with this web page. On the left side of the screen, there's three tiles that you need to take care of: company settings, site settings, BookMe settings. Under company settings, that's the very first one you should go to. This is where you upload your company logo, and this is where you choose your company theme. So in this case, we're using Angel's Test Salon. So let me show you what it would actually look like. So I'm going to open up a new tab, and I'm going to Angel's Test Salon. So you can see this is where the logo comes into play. And you notice how the background has this sort of white gradient. So depending on your business, maybe you have a company logo or house colors that are darker. When you go to the settings, you can change the theme. So I can go to Midnight Black, for example. And if I save it, it saves and it changes in real time. So when I return to my online booking page and I refresh it, it's going to change from this grayscale to a black background. So of course, depending on your company logo, your house colors, make sure you choose a theme that matches with you. So we've got about 24 different themes you can choose from. So I'll set it back to white gradient because my logo is of course in black and I lose it in this lady's hair. So set your theme. The other thing is you have the ability to add multiple languages. So it always defaults the instructions to English. But once a customer is on your specific online booking page, we can give the client the ability to choose a secondary language or a third language, whether you're speaking French Canadian, whether you're speaking Spanish, we can give the customer that option. So in this case, we're going to have two options there. And really, you just review the information that's here. Something to look at is the confirmation email, the heading, and the body. So whenever a customer uses online booking, they're going to get an automatic email, and it'll put in the name of your site. In this case, it'll say Angel's Test Salon reservation confirmation. Dear, and the message itself, it'll say, dear, put the customer's first name. Thank you for making a reservation. We are located at, and it'll put in the address and the phone number. So your reservation details are as follows. And then online booking will put the day and the time of their visit. So of course you can change this message. If you don't like the word reservation, you prefer it to say appointment, you prefer it to say booking, absolutely you can change this. Also, when the customer sees the day and the time that they're supposed to come in for their visit, you can add additional information. So for most of you, you now have brand new rules in place when it comes to online booking, when it comes to appointments. So if you need to make sure that every customer, in this case, we're going to say new rules and we're going to highlight it. We're going to say you must bring a mask. If you have any cold symptoms, cold or flu-like symptoms, the day of your visit, please call to reschedule. Plus any other rules you may have in effect. If you have a kids salon, then you may want to say limit one parent per child. And if you just want to say just limit one parent, so if it's multiple children, only one parent's allowed to come with them. So any other rules, if the customer has to wait in their car while you're sterilizing the station for the next visit, you can say, please wait in your car. You will be contacted when your station is ready or when your chair is ready. So any special rules, go ahead and put that in the confirmation body. And then as you scroll through the list, there are other things you can do. You can update your terms and conditions and include all of these new rules that you have in your terms and conditions. So the customer, of course, can't say, well, I didn't know I was supposed to bring a mask, or I was feeling a little bit sick. I didn't know I was supposed to call to cancel my appointment. You can say that was all in the terms and conditions when you use online booking. We spell it out for you. But of course, help the customer make these rules as visible as possible. Putting them in the confirmation message is just one thing. But you can also copy this information and put it in the instructions that the customer actually sees. So on the online booking page, we have step 1 and step 2. Step 1, you're going to choose a category. Then you're going to choose a service. And then whether or not the customer can choose any specific employee or a male or a female, that's up to you to set. But up here where it says step 1 and step 2, maybe we're going to add information about the new rules. So that's service selection text. And I can here put in my new rules and save them. So now when I go to my online booking page, I want to make that as visible as possible. So now I've included my new rules. So the more places you put this information, the easier it is for customers to pay attention. Okay, so through your company settings, you're going to update your rules. You're going to update the message that Shortcut sends out. And if you have any other changes, like maybe previously you had a male or female option when choosing an employee, but a few employees aren't coming back, so you end up with an all male or an all female team. Maybe you want to change the wording to say simply select the specific employee or press any, and the computer will choose a random employee for the client. So make sure you save all of your changes here. That's your company settings. At the very top, I'm going to press the start button, and it takes me back to the console page. So that's the first thing you want to review. If you haven't done this in a while, or you're brand new to online booking, you're going to go to company settings. The second place you're going to go to is site settings. And what site settings corresponds to is actually the contact information for your salon. So you'll put in your salon information, you'll put in, if you have social media, what this affects are the emails that you can potentially send through the Shortcuts marketing in the cloud. So this doesn't necessarily affect online booking. However, at the bottom, you absolutely want to make sure your phone number and your address is correct, because this information does synchronize to the online booking page. So if you look at the very top, this is where it's getting that address from. So make sure that this is all correct. And then, of course, save your changes. So once that's saved, your company settings, your site settings, the third thing you're going to adjust is your BookMe settings. So this is probably the most important button to review. Maybe you have been using online booking for a few years, maybe you're new to online booking. This is what determines how many days in advance a customer can make an appointment. So because of course, as sites are reopening, you've got a list of customers a mile long waiting to make an appointment with you. So you know that you can no longer have same day appointments. That's out the window. So you're going to change the earliest booking allowed from 0 days to 1 possibly 2 days in advance. That's the soonest the customer can request an appointment online, just because you're so backed up. Now, eventually, you will get caught up, and then you can go back in here and say, okay, 0 days. Now I'm going to go back to same day appointments. But for the time being, consider changing this to 1 or 2 days. And then latest booking allowed. How many days in advance can a customer make an appointment? By default, 60 days is here, but you can change it to 30 days or 90 days. However far in advance you've actually set your staff schedules and shortcuts comes into play. So think about that. Now, underneath that, if you're going to allow customers to cancel their appointment using online booking, how many days in advance are they allowed to cancel? So 2 days before their visit, they're allowed to cancel. 1 day before their visit, they're allowed to cancel. Whatever that is, you set that here. Now this one's a little bit different. Booking change allowed. So maybe they're not going to cancel their visit, but they're going to change their service. So if I were booking a men's haircut, a designer cut in this case, and I'm going through the process, I'm choosing what day am I coming in. I'm going to click the calendar and say, I'd like to come in on the 18th. And I'd like to come in on the 18th between 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock. So during my lunchtime, that's when I'm going to come in. So I'll go through the process. I'll choose the service, the day, the time, and then Shortcuts says, okay, Thursday, 12 o'clock is available. Let's go ahead and book it. So this is normally where I sign up. I'll put in my email, my password, or if I'm brand new to online booking, I can say I'm a new user, I want to register, or I can use the Facebook login. And either case will actually create a new client card with you with the customer's contact information. Now, I think I've already created an account. Let me check. I should have my Shortcuts email as my email username. And let me try a password. And hopefully that works. Yes, excellent. So if I was making an appointment for myself, I went through the process. It says, okay, next Thursday at 12 o'clock, I'm getting a designer cut with any available employee. But if you notice the default, there's a pull down with just my name. And immediately to the right, there's a plus button. So let's say I was a parent and I wanted to make an appointment for my kid or my kids. I can press the plus button and create an account for every member of my family. So I can add 10 kids if I want, and I can choose for which kid am I making the appointment. Or I can make it for my spouse, or I can make it for my parents, whoever it is. And every time I log in with my own email, but I make an appointment on behalf of somebody else. So keep that green plus button in mind. Now somebody is asking a question. Hold on just a moment. Jasmine has a question. How can you change the order of the services client side when they book? Good question, Jasmine. We'll look at that in just a little bit. So hold on to that question. We will get back to you. So from your console settings, if I were to make that appointment for next Thursday and I change my mind, I say, no, I don't want a designer cut. I want a barber cut. So I can say, okay, a customer can change it 1 day before their visit or 2 days before their visit. If I leave this portion blank, then what it tells Shortcuts is I am not going to let the customer change the service that they want, because my appointment book is so tight. I don't want customers just changing their services willy-nilly because it may throw the rest of the day off. So I can leave this blank and say, sorry, if you want a different service, you really have to call the salon. And then display availabilities with 50% efficiency or more. So this determines how online booking distributes the appointments and how productive it makes your staff. At 50% efficiency, Shortcuts recognizes that your salon, your spa, your barbershop may deal with walk-in clients. So instead of bumping every online appointment back to back to back, it will give a pause of time, an open block of time in between each online booking so that you can actually take care of a walk-in. Now, if your employees say, you know what, we're not really dealing with too many walk-ins anymore, can we tighten up that space? Absolutely. We can bump up the efficiency to 70%. And if your salon from this point on will never deal with walk-ins, you can bump it up to 100% efficiency. And online booking will try to squeeze every appointment in as tightly as possible based on your appointment book settings. But if you deal with an even mix, you might want to leave it at 50% for now. When a customer chooses the day of their visit, how many openings do you want to show them? So when I was making an appointment, Shortcuts actually gave me 10 possible openings. So I can change how many I'm going to let the customer see. So maybe I only want to show them 4 or 5 openings. We can change that setting. Now we're going to skip this portion on specials. We talked about specials on another classroom session, so I'm going to skip it for now. But I'll just say that on the day that you run a special, instead of showing the usual 5 or 10 openings, you want to cut that number in half. So you're telling customers, today I run a special, and if you make the appointment, you only have 2 options. You're either going to get the 12 o'clock time or the 12:30 time. And then after that, this special disappears. So you're letting customers know, I'm serious about my promotion. Search a total of 14 days after the start day. What this does is this is how Shortcuts allows the customer to book on your busiest day. So of course, most locations, you're super busy on Friday, you're super busy on Saturday, and you know your books are completely filled this weekend and next weekend. So if a customer jumps online and they go to online booking and they say, I want to make a Saturday appointment in the afternoon, chances are Shortcuts is going to say, sorry, there are no Saturday openings. But with 14 days after start date, Shortcuts is going to look over my next 2 weeks. Is there a Saturday open next weekend or the following weekend? So for at least 2 more weekends after their desired date, it's going to look for another opening. So keep that in mind, especially with how busy a lot of the salons are. How far in advance do you want to let them search? And then service booking order. So this is pretty neat. This is where we help the customer make an appointment. So if you're a big salon, you do color services, you do haircuts, you even have estheticians on your team. You don't necessarily want them booking services in the wrong order. So of course, if a customer wants a haircut, if a customer wants a color, you don't want them to accidentally book the haircut before the color. So what you do is you tell Shortcuts, color service is actually priority number 1. If somebody then chooses a haircut service, that's priority number 2 or priority number 3. So if a customer jumps in online booking and they say, I want a haircut, and they make that their first choice, and then they say, and I want a color service, what Shortcuts is going to do is it's going to look at their priority and say, okay, I'll let you make this appointment, but on my calendar, I'm going to put the color service first because that service should be done first. If you have a service that doesn't interfere with anything else, you can leave that at 0, or you can give it equal priority. So you are allowed to have multiple 1s, multiple 2s, or just leave things at 0, because usually if a customer is getting a manicure pedicure, they may not be getting a hair service. So just keep that in mind for your business. Now, Facebook main page. This does not correspond to putting a link for online booking onto your Facebook company page. This instead is how Shortcuts knows if you ever approve of a survey. So you get a customer that gives you a glowing review and you want to share it on your Facebook company page, this is how Shortcuts knows which page to post to. So don't confuse the two. If you want to add this online booking link to your Facebook page, you actually have to go to Facebook, and at the very top of the screen where your banner usually is, there's a button that says make an appointment or call to make an appointment. So that's your call to action button. And you can change that. You can choose to edit and instead choose the online booking button and then just give Facebook your address for online booking. So that's actually how you would add that. So once you save your changes, once you review a few more things, then it actually is going to affect your preferences for online booking. So in this case, I still want my 12 o'clock Thursday next week. If I hit confirm, then I'm going to get that email that says, thank you for making an appointment. This is the day, this is the time of your visit, and these are my new rules. Remember to bring a mask. Please wait in your car until you're called to come in. Right? So let's jump back. Let's jump back to the presentation. We will get to that question, so stand by. So remember, you're going to set up your business hours, your service menu, your capabilities, your employee availability in Shortcuts first. Then you're going to go to the online console and set your rules and conditions for online booking. So in total, if you make these changes, and it's just two sets of changes, your server changes and your online console changes. So now we've learned how to set those changes. We're not really going to focus on specials. We talked about linking it to Facebook. Now with regards to Instagram, you would have to put that on your profile. So the customer usually swipes up to get to that. And we'll be talking about Spotlight in another presentation. So now we're going to, before we open the floor to questions, all of our previous webinars are available on our Shortcuts webpage. So you can, of course, visit our webinar section. And we also post our classroom sessions on YouTube. So if you go to Shortcuts USA, you can actually see every classroom and every webinar we've done. So now we're opening up the floor to questions. And the very first question I got, and I'll bring up the question, how can you change the order of the services that the clients see when they book? So let's circle back. So the order of services that appears, and we'll go to the previous window. I'll go back to the very first window of online booking. So this list, so the very list and the services that come up are actually alphabetized based on the services that are in the Shortcuts point of sale. So if I go to Shortcuts point of sale, set up services, my categories, my service categories are alphabetized here. So any one that I've enabled for the web is going alphabetically based on my categories here. So let's say you want to change it. Your haircuts are more popular than your colors, but in your service menu, CU happens after CO. So how would you change that? Well, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can add a special character before the letter, or you can put a number. So maybe your salon has 1, 2, 3, 4 based on the order of popularity. So if you set that category or that service category under a number, then Shortcuts will actually recognize that, and in online booking, it will then organize the category based on the number you assign. Same rules apply for services. Services are showing you the service names alphabetically, not necessarily based on popularity. Okay, so I hope that answers the question. Does anybody else have a question? And I think everybody's writing down their notes right now. So I'll pause for just a moment. And we'll go back to the online settings. Did I go over Google already? I did not. Good question, Jasmine. So all of the configuration that we've done, all of this was designed for the Shortcuts online booking. So you either provide this link on your Facebook page or on your company page, and this is where a customer would go to make an appointment. However, Shortcuts does synchronize with Google. So if your business, let's say you had configured online booking previously through Shortcuts, we now have the ability to push that information, push that synchronization to Google. So usually you would ask the help desk, you would ask your customer success rep, uh, by the way, can you make sure that we're listed on Google? And we can let our developers know to flip the switch yes or no, should they show up on Google. So the service menu that you have, your availabilities, your schedules, all of that will also potentially synchronize to Google. So that's just a feature that we offer. If you haven't used online booking before, or you're new to online booking, that's why we always make sure that you go through your complete service, business hours capabilities so that Google doesn't mistakenly book the wrong employee for a service. So do that first. And if you're still not listed in Google, let us know. We can have our developers make sure your site starts to come up. So Google should be synchronizing as fast as the Shortcuts online services, but don't be surprised if you start modifying your service menu. It may take a day or two before Google catches up with that, as opposed to the Shortcuts online console, which updates very quickly throughout the day. Right? Does that answer the Google question you had, Jasmine? The other thing to consider, if you are a business owner, if you're the manager at this location, and you have not claimed your Google business profile, that's the first thing you should also do when you're dealing with Google. Because a number of you may realize that your salon, your shop shows up when you do a Google search. It'll have pictures of the place, it'll have your business hours, it'll even have a link for online booking. So you just assume, okay, well, if people can find me that way, that's good. If you don't claim your business listing, you run the risk of somebody coming along and saying, I'm the owner for this business. I want to take over the details that show up online. And then these people are going to be answering customer questions. They're going to be putting in false information. Now, it's rare. It's very, very rare that that happens, but it may potentially happen. So claim your Google My Business listing, and it's free. If your site comes up, if that information comes up, then you'll notice when you're searching for a business, and I'm just going to bring up the browser, and we'll go ahead and bring up Google, even though we're on Edge and Microsoft wants me to bring up Bing. I'm just going to use Google as an example. So if I were, let's say, looking at a person that does brake repair in my city, in my state, whatever it is, and on the right side of the screen, it actually gives me a list of businesses, maybe for a certain location. So let me be very specific. Brake repair, North Long Beach. So it may list a bunch of businesses, but you may have an option, if this is your business, to click and to claim that site. So they will send you contact information to verify you are who you say you are. And then once you do that, you now have the ability to edit the details that appear on a Google search. You can update your business phone. You can update your business hours. You can answer customer questions. So make sure you claim your Google My Business listing. And again, it's free. And you want to make sure that accurate information shows up online. Google Analytics question. Okay, so Jasmine was asking specifically about the Google Analytics settings in the BookMe settings. So I sort of skipped it. Google Analytics domain name, Google Analytics tracking number, and Google AdWords conversion code. This question, these boxes appear in both the BookMe settings and also in the company settings. If we scroll down a little bit, here they are. Now, not every business uses this. This is not then this is a reason why I sort of passed over this when we were talking about online booking. But if you have a Google business account, you may be using Google Analytics or you may be using Google AdWords to increase the visibility of your site online, to track the customers that find you thanks to web searches, so that you can now begin to optimize your service menu, your hours, things like that. So if you happen to have a Google Analytics domain name or a tracking number, you can paste that in here. And if a customer uses online booking, whether they find it through a web search, whether you give them a link on Facebook, whatever the case is, this is going to help Google track your clients. You'll find out approximately how many customers are actually using a link you provided versus doing an organic web search. What times of the day are they searching for hair services or nail services or spa services? What services do they tend to focus on? How long do they spend on your online booking page? Things like that. So it's really going to give you an insight as to how your customers find your business, and you'll know more or less, okay, maybe I should hire an extra staff person for the afternoon or the early morning on a Friday, Saturday, because that's the days customers actively search for. And of course, Google AdWords. So this will, again, recognize your customer trends, help optimize that searchability by suggesting, okay, these are certain AdWords that you could be using. Because if a customer doesn't necessarily jump online to say, I'm looking for a place that does kids' haircuts, they'll just do a word like haircuts, boys. So Google AdWords will begin helping you optimize, right? But again, not every business uses that, so that's why I sort of glossed over it. I hope that answers the question for Jasmine. Okay, are there any other questions with the online booking settings in Shortcuts, or the settings that you want to configure in the actual Shortcuts Fusion, the Shortcuts point of sale, with regards to your web settings? Something I didn't mention is if you need to change your service times, you now need to add an extra 10 or 15 minutes so that you can sanitize each station before your next client. So as you're going through your service menu, if you find you're going to add an extra 15 to every service, you're going to click the name of that service and go to the details wrench on the bottom right corner. And from this window, you'll add an extra 15 minutes to every service. So this pads in all of that extra time you need. So don't forget to do that if your state requires you to sterilize, sanitize between visits. Okay, back to the presentation. I think we've answered all the questions we had for today. If you're watching this recording after the fact, a little bit later today, maybe you had to drop out early, go ahead and reach out to us. This is the education email, so I will get this message if you send it to education. And of course, you can also message your client success rep and they'll get back to you. And of course, our help desk is here 24/7. Visit us online, visit us on Facebook, Instagram as well. If you ask us a question there, we will get back to you. All right. So thank you all for attending. I look forward to seeing you on the next classroom session. So stay safe, everybody. I know this is a transitional period, so be safe. If you have any questions, let us know. We will get back to you. Have a great day.